each
What?
other.
How about you not talking?
We got a round table going here.
Yeah, but like Scott Van Pelt doesn't look at camera.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Hey,
Kyle, Kyle, do whatever you want. Matt, if Kyle doesn't look at the camera, you better be.
I'll be not
I'm
looking
getting ready to go
at
put
it
your shit on bricks right now. Okay?
Oh
No,
my
you
god.
can't. That's
That's her car.
I'm so hungry.
Yeah,
I
I
was waiting for the wings.
I
just
I'm gonna sit here a minute.
That's how
Oh.
good I am.
15 seconds.
Don't worry, we have some
That
laughs.
was your show. That was your show.
Oh yeah, I'm pulling it up.
Thanks,
we're
Coach.
coming in with the intro again this time.
Yep. I mean, we are
Want me to get it?
live, so.
Can you give me a countdown there?
Well, that's because he said just go ahead and start broadcasting. But you know what? It's all right. We can start a little later. Turn that up.
YouTube up?
Absolutely.
All right.
We're all good to go.
Come
We're
on.
good to go.
We can spit off the top of the dome.
All right,
I love
guys. We are live here on Wednesday, July 16th, with a special guest, as we mentioned on Friday, Coach Kyle Wren from Stonebridge.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's going on, Kyle? How you doing?
Great to have you on.
Nice to be here.
We got to clear things up right off the bat. You're a LeBron fan.
Let's go. We're in there.
I thought we were going to. Yes, I am a LeBron fan. That I am.
Kyle's a LeBron fan.
That's
Anyways,
We'll touch on that in a minute. Before we get into any questions about the most recent news in sports, wanted to pick Kyle's brain a little bit. As we mentioned last week's show, or last Monday's show, Kyle is, correct me if I'm wrong, the head coach of the JV football team?
JV program, I am the head coach. And then recently this year, I just got promoted to the varsity offensive line position.
That is awesome.
So this will be my first year taking over that as well.
That's really cool. How do you think your experience just a few short years ago, we all graduated in 2010,
Right.
how did your experience going in such a short amount of time from a player to being a coach, how did that affect your coaching style and how you view your...
Well, I think, being a player coach, you understand things better as a coach, when you've been there. Being in those player shoes, you don't understand, the amount of times during the day where I want to yell at a kid or, say something to a kid and it's like, wow, I remember exactly where I was back then. I think every staff has, that old guy, that crabby old guy, and it's the staff. I'm the young guy, the guy that understands, the players, for who they are, not just as, football players, but as, kids, because I'm, being 22, I remember what it was like, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's tough, and I think it's nice that I can relate to them on that level.
yeah, it's great. And like you said, graduated 2010, so you're just basically
fresh
almost
out,
5
yeah,
years
fresh
removed from
out.
high school. So how did you get started into coaching? like
So,
that?
Obviously graduated. If you guys played football with Brandon Stonebridge, 2010 senior year. But so I graduated from Stonebridge. Actually went to West Virginia University to play center, long snapper. Played there for a year. Got a couple of injuries bugging me. Came back. Decided the life up there wasn't for me. Started going to school around here. And it just happened to be the summer after I came back, the football program was always starting up, and I was always just hanging around. And I was kind of like that guy, like, wow, he's still here. Like, and I think that's the way any coach really starts out is, you just put your foot in a program, and it's like eventually you just get swallowed up into it. So that first summer, so I played center at Stonebridge. That's all I did that first year was pretty much just coach the centers, and it was like me and them just all the time. And that kind of became my thing, and going to school, and then the next year came around, and I was like, wow, I'm still here, I'm still coaching centers. And it actually happened that year that the JV assistant coach had some personal issues come up, and that kind of left a void that needed to be filled. And everyone kind of looked around and was like, wow, we got nobody else. So, Kyle, you got to take it. So, needless to say, week 3, calling the defense for a JV team, it was a rush, to my head. And it was like, wow, I know exactly what I want to do. So that's pretty much how I got started. And then, you just keep building and learn. And then now here I am, the head coach of the JV program, and then offensive line coach for the first time. So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So-
I appreciate that.
So Thompson's not coaching the O-line anymore?
That's his thing. For those of you guys that don't know, Coach Mickey Thompson is, my mentor. He's been like a second father to me. It was always his thing. Offensive line was, that was his niche. That's what he did. And he started to kind of back off of it a little bit, put his hand into different things, defensively. He's got his son on the team who's a quarterback, so now he's kind of dealing with that. So he kind of backed off of it for a little while, but he'll never be completely out of it. I find him creeping over to my area more times than not, which I love having him there. It's just funny how he reverts back to, his old O-line. But, I mean, like I said, everything I know about O-line I learned, predominantly from him.
That's who else better to learn from in this
area exactly
than Mickey Thompson,
defensive line guy.
I mean, I don't know particularly the high school Hall of Fame, but he's a bona fide high school Hall of Fame coach.
For our listeners that aren't from the Northern Virginia area, Mickey Thompson, we would say, is probably a legend. In this
Mickey
area.
Thompson is a legend.
Yeah, he's a legend, and you can't say anything else.
But I think it speaks, even just in the area, not just in the area, really. I mean, all over. He's the type of coach, he's not going to take, the dumb stuff from players. He's going to be there for you, and he's going to be supportive, but he's a no-nonsense kind of guy. It's something you talk about all the time. It's finding that balance between the respect that your players have you and being a friend to them. And I think he finds, and it's something that I would aspire to do, is to find that balance between being a friend to players, and kind of being that authoritative figure to kind of like push them forward.
Were there any misconceptions about coaches or problems you had with coaches you had growing up?
Oh, absolutely.
That have changed since you've been a coach?
Absolutely. There's always, everyone has that coach. It's like, God, he hates me. Like, he just there were always, especially the older coaches, because they're set in their ways.
Definitely.
But then you get to become a coach and you realize, they're not just coaches. These are, human beings just like you and me, and you become friends with them, and all of a sudden, you go from this coach that you thought hated you to this great guy that just wants to, show what he knows to the kids that he's coaching. So, but I think, there's definitely misconceptions, all coaches, all they do is coach. All they think about sports all the time. We have lives outside of coaching, but not that, sports is 90% of what I think about, but, we have a lot outside.
So, just as a question from my end, because I never played football or went to Stonebridge at all, so, all this is new to me and how they do football at Stonebridge. But coming from a player to a coaching perspective, what do you find as the hardest way to actually lead your players? Do you think, what's your leading style? I mean, coming from you being the youngest head coach for JV, and being able to relate to players 5 years apart from you. So them looking at you like you're just a fellow colleague.
Right. So I think the hardest part was in the beginning was they viewed you kind of as, a peer. Right. And you are a peer to them in a way, but it's, like I said, it's finding that balance between being a peer with them and being an authoritative figure. I found myself being more authoritative early on, being, a hard-nosed kind of, knock it down kind of coach. And then as the years went on and the kids kind of started figuring out, okay, he's a real coach, he does this, all the time, it's kind of like I don't really have to do it anymore. It kind of just falls into place. But as far as, the hardest thing about coaching is, coaching when you're winning's all well and good. It's, when you're down, when you're losing, when your team's 0-5, and kids start to lose hope. That's when, you got to, kick them. You got to be like, look, listen, you're not just fighting for wins. You're fighting to get better. You're fighting for the person next to you. You're looking to become a better person and a better teammate by playing, whatever sport it is, be it football, basketball, whatever, lacrosse, whatever you're talking about. It's just, that's what you want to do. You want to build that relationship with your players and make them the best that they can be. And that's just what I try to do.
Do you miss the game? Will you get dirty on the field with the players?
And that is probably, I just said, finding that balance is hard. But the number one hardest thing is when you're standing on the sideline and it's 4th and 2, and it doesn't matter what physical abilities you have, unless you've taught them well, it's not going to mean anything. Right. So I think that's hard sometimes. Is I get frustrated. Being on the sideline and being like, wow, I could have done this differently. I could have done this differently. But then, the thought immediately pops in my head like, wow, I need to tell them, what I'm thinking in my head. Because if I can convey that to them, maybe they won't make the same mistakes that I once made. So
now, on another note, going back towards the same question, how hard is it for you? Because I know at Stonebridge there's some big boys, some good hitters. How hard is it for you to not want to run in there and just jump up and down as soon as a heavy hit is made?
And the funny thing is, you say, how hard is it for me to not do it? I do it still. Yeah. I still do it. We can sit here and joke and say that, but
because Treon used to do that all the time.
And he's one of the coaches I learned a lot from. getting pumped yourself is half the battle. Like if you come out to practice and you're flat, the kids are going to practice how you act.
Right.
If you come out with that energy and intensity, they're going to come out with that energy and intensity. And, every now and again, it's always a good thing. Something happens, there's a big hit, and I go rushing in there, screaming and losing my head, and they're like, wow, what the heck? Like, you just started doing this? So I think inserting that little bit of energy into a practice, it definitely helps a lot.
Right.
So
some of the kids that go to Stonebridge to play football obviously go on to like D1, D2 programs very often. How do you, as a coach, does your coaching style at all differ from player to player if you know that this is the kind of kid that has the talent that's going to go to the next level?
It does and it doesn't. I mean, you try to treat every kid the same. Mm-hmm. I mean, from the D1 recruits all the way down to the kids that are just there having fun. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, it's impossible to treat every kid exactly the same. I'm going to give teaching, based on level of ability. And if it's a D1, football player, maybe they're doing something different that maybe this younger kid can't do. I'm trying to teach their ability level. As far as, like we've had a ton of D1 players. I've had the privilege of playing with, both of the Thompson twins. Zach Huwich is now with the New York Jets. And then like Daniel Allen, a great running back that, went on to play at JMU. All these different players from all different walks of life. And it's the same caliber person, just that great kind of guy that, it's not just they're good at athletics, but they're great, people as well. And it makes it easy to like them as players. Everyone's like, well, why do you like the D1? Because they're D1 athletes. They understand. They're adults already. It doesn't mean I like the other kids any less. It just means that these guys are, they're before their time. They're ahead of, the curve. So it's nice to be able to work with, young adults, rather than kids sometimes. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
I got to ask you from a coaching standpoint. We've been having all the issues with concussions.
Right.
My track record with concussions.
Oh, I mean,
we've lost count at probably 8.5.
That's not a track record, boy. It's a rap sheet.
They got a whole rap sheet.
You got the Hall of Fame rap sheet.
Yeah.
You got right next to Mickey. You got you.
But what have you guys done anything differently since we graduated?
And that's, when we played, obviously it was an issue, but now, with the NFL, the Players Association filing the lawsuits recently, and not just that, just this general safety of, football as a sport, we've definitely had to take steps. Every year our equipment, we try to stay, as new as possible. We use the Revolution Speed helmets now, which are, concussion preventive specific.
We didn't have those.
Right,
so
exactly.
Right. Can I get one of
those? Just to wear around regular day.
I want to see if you still got the concussion.
And then now we do, it's called Heads Up Certified, which is all the youth leagues do it, but now the high schools are starting to do it too. And it's kind of this program that it forces, players and athletes, a lot of the time players want to dip their heads and go in full steam.
Right.
And that results in the concussions. Yes. So that's, part of the reason why we've started to move towards, it's kind of a training to kind of teach us how to teach kids. It's a coach teaching coach kind of thing. I mean, we've done a pretty good job teaching over the years, but just being, heads up, coaches and being able to kind of prevent the concussions that were going on. We've seen a dramatic drop just with, equipment that we're using, the type of teaching that we're doing. It all just has started to culminate in a reduced amount of concussions. So it's really nice to see that go down. So,
and as we said before, we're lucky enough to have Kyle here with us, and he is representing the Stonebridge Athletic Department, and they are actually a sponsor of our program here at Cover 3, brought to you by ACES. The Stonebridge program that we, on the way here, actually saw a bumper sticker that said Stonebridge Crew. Do you know anything about that?
When did that happen? Yeah, and it was wild. A couple of years, I think it was a couple of years ago, I was in the parking lot, and all of a sudden, there's a big tractor trailer with ginormous canoes.
Yeah.
I can't claim to be much of a crew aficionado myself, but I guess they've started up as kind of a club program, and they're kind of trying to make their way towards becoming a full-fledged sport. So kudos to them.
I mean, it's similar to lacrosse because it started spurring up.
Right, exactly. So a couple of years ago in Virginia,
I think I saw a Briarwoods crew. also a neighboring high school in the area.
He didn't see that. He just wanted to bring up
I
Briarwood.
swear to you, a while ago, it might be some other school,
sticker?
but I saw Crew, and I was like, you don't really see that down here.
Yeah, and I
in
think
Virginia.
You see it in Fairfax a lot.
it was kind of like lacrosse. Lacrosse was a cult following for a
Yeah.
lot of years.
Yeah.
It was big up in New York and Massachusetts
Mhm.
area, and it's kind of starting to spread, just like Crew. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at Crew is huge
Up from the north.
up in the north,
Yeah.
and I think it's just starting to spread down, and which is great. I mean, I was never big into lacrosse either.
We're never gonna get cricket in here.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, definitely. That'd be an interesting one. I don't know that, I have enough going on
Yeah.
with soccer. I barely pretend to understand that, let alone cricket.
But this is the Stonebridge Athletic Department, happy sponsor of our program here. And as you were about to mention, lacrosse, as we said, is a sport that has been steadily growing in the last decade or so,
Right.
I'd say. And we've seen some great players come from our program.
Can I share a lacrosse story real quick?
Go
This is
right ahead.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
I don't know if the story's the same for you, but because you didn't play lacrosse until we got to freshman year, right?
Freshman year was my first year playing lacrosse.
So they needed lacrosse players to have a JV team.
You
And
tried out?
essentially, I was on the team, but essentially what they did is they went door to door
It was
to
really
all the
creative.
freshman football players
It was really creative.
Really?
Actually,
Homes.
yes.
and gave you a pamphlet and was like, we're having tryouts
Right.
for the JV lacrosse team.
Wow.
And it worked out. I mean, it ended. I had no intentions of ever playing lacrosse. I didn't know
what it was.
lacrosse. Exactly.
Yeah,
I was a baseball. I'm still a baseball guy, as you can see.
Yeah.
Washington
Go
Nationals.
Nationals.
Yeah.
But I was always a baseball guy, and I'd never even heard of others. I had other spring sports I knew about, but it was like lacrosse. What is this? And they came to my door and were like, "Look, we're recruiting guys. Would you like to try out for lacrosse?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And just to show you how opportunities pan out, I ended up playing. Only played for a year because of injuries. I've been injury prone my whole career, but ended up coming back, and now I actually help coach lacrosse at Stonebridge as well.
That's
So
awesome.
love watching it. The NCAA tournament, is one of my favorite. Notre Dame, Maryland, favorite teams. I love watching them. So
See, I'm a Syracuse fan, strictly
Yeah.
because of Maltz.
yeah,
Strictly
Derek
because of Maltz.
and Dylan. Yeah, Dylan, and now he's on the team. Derek was a captain for a few years, and now he's out. So he's doing his thing. He's with the Ohio Machine, I believe.
Oh, really?
He plays,
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
on
wow.
an MLL team. So it's great just seeing Stonebridge, Stonebridge guys, but then all over the area.
Yeah, just the Northern Virginia Athletics.
Exactly,
making a-
exactly, and it's so great for sports in general that these sports that come out of nowhere, because there's the kids that just aren't built for football. It's
Yeah.
not in their genes. It's
Right.
not in but lacrosse is a sport where you want to lift, you want to be big, but
Yeah.
you don't need to be 6'6", 300 pounds to be a good lacrosse player. You can be
5'2"
Exactly.
and fast.
Yeah.
a scrappy little kid
Yeah.
that's gonna fight,
Yeah.
which is great. Kids that are willing to work hard and come out and put their work in are given the opportunity to play a great sport.
Right.
That's getting national attention now.
Yeah, it is.
So
And
I mean, speaking of national attention, let's talk about internationally. How
Right.
lacrosse, there's a big
yeah,
tournament.
the big
going on.
tournament's going on.
The
FIL.
FIL World
Right.
Lacrosse Championship.
USA just won the blue division, correct? Just recently.
I believe
They
so.
did.
I mean, I'm not very versed in lacrosse in itself, but
Right,
it's
right.
something that I would love to get an idea on. And actually, I have a buddy of mine. I actually grew up with him, who's all into lacrosse, and he's keeping me updated on this stuff. And I'm just like, it's over my head. It's over my head.
And
And I'm
it's-
like, I like
well,
to listen.
That's how I thought at tryouts, man.
lacrosse is similar to soccer when it's a sport in the U.S. that isn't exactly very popular, but we're seeing
Right.
the
The spurts,
fandom
right.
increase. What do you, from your perspective? I know you don't have a lot of experience in soccer. Neither do I. Do you?
Not as far as coaching. I mean, I know as much as any.
Yeah.
I watch the World Cup, but I don't pretend. I don't watch the
Yeah.
club championships or what. But I know enough about soccer. But you're right. It is like I said with lacrosse, it's a cult following in
Yeah.
the United States. You either love it or you
Yeah.
know nothing about it.
Well, I think after us winning the blue division, we did actually win the blue division 5-0. We
Right.
won 5 games straight, and I think that's just gonna, just like
that's-
soccer,
yeah, and
we're
that's-
gonna get up there, right?
and that shows, I think, kind of how we're moving at, the United States as far as a whole, not just the East Coast, being as, the
Right.
East Coast is kind of like the mecca for lacrosse.
Yeah.
But it just shows how, we win the blue division 5-0. There's other teams that are, just as good. Australia, a great team that we, managed to make it past, it just shows, we have the athletes. It's just a matter of getting them out and participating.
Well, an argument we were having on the show when the World Cup was going on was how prevalent soccer is going to be in this country maybe in the next 10, 20 years. What do you see in, let's say, 15 years, let's say 2030? What do you think is going to be more popular in this country, lacrosse or soccer?
See, that's tough. That's really tough because, I think soccer is ahead of lacrosse now. I think, and you see it because with the World Cup, everyone's into the World Cup. Everyone, I don't care if you watch soccer, if you don't, everyone is into the World Cup. But as far as the international championships for lacrosse, you don't see that many people wearing the United States jerseys, wearing the Israeli jerseys. You just don't see it.
Yeah.
So I think lacrosse kind of is on the back burner right now. But I think in that like I said, there's it's spreading. It's from the north and it's moving down and it's moving west. I think soccer will be farther ahead in 15 to 20 years, but I think lacrosse is getting close. I think it's on the verge of becoming, a football for us.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the World Cup was so heavily advertised within the United States, the departments around homes, ESPN, everything, whatever have you, the mothership, and you knew it was coming years before it actually came.
Right.
Now, if you think about this lacrosse international tournament, I mean, it's interesting. It's very interesting to watch. Like, it's awesome. Because USA is doing great, so I'm jumping on the bandwagon because I don't know lacrosse, but I didn't hear a lick of this lacrosse tournament until it actually started.
That's purely
until we beat Australia.
From like an advertising standpoint, they might not just have the actual revenue to go out and put these ads like FIFA has to put on the air.
Which I think is part of the problem. Which I think is being solved. We're moving towards. ESPN starting to show them on the regular networks. It was 5 years ago where you couldn't find a lacrosse game on an ESPN network. You had to go online. Now it's we're finally making it to the ESPN2s. ESPN every now and again you'll get a good game.
ESPN the Ocho.
But I think we're moving in the right direction as a culture, as a lacrosse culture. And not to put anything against soccer, but I think it's time for lacrosse to get a little bit of the spotlight.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I'm sure
don't mean to backtrack at all, but back to your coaching in lacrosse.
Yeah, of course.
Is there anything from how you coach football that you found translated to lacrosse well, and things that did not translate to lacrosse well?
I think as the overall. Just the scheme of the way I coach, like I said, an authoritative figure that also, you find the compassion to help your players through. That carries over through not just lacrosse, football, just life in general and dealing with young people. But you are right. There are things about football that don't carry over to lacrosse because you got to realize it's like we were talking about. You've got the 6'6", 300-pound behemoths. Yeah. And then you've got the 5'2", maybe he's never played a sport in his life. Yeah. It's definitely a different culture, I think. And it's about, like I said, getting players better. But the thing you have to understand is kids that have been playing football have been playing since they were pee-wee.
Right.
Whereas lacrosse kids like Brandon and I, when we started playing, it's like they just. So you can't quite be as higher of expectations as you would be with football because you got to remember some of these kids are just picking up a stick for the first time, which shows. I mean, with football, it's pretty close. Like if you got a D1 athlete and a kid that's been playing a while but isn't that great, I think the gap it's big, but it's not enormous. Whereas you go to lacrosse and the gap between the kids that haven't been playing in a while and the kids that are D1 lacrosse is enormous, and you got to understand that. Like you said, you treat your D1. Yeah. In lacrosse, you got to be really careful because that's, that big difference is not as prevalent in football, but something you say or something you coach, something you might do in lacrosse might rub someone a different way. Or,
absolutely. Turn them off from
exactly, from the sport, in general, which, you got to be careful because it's trying to, like I said, it's trying to get kids active.
Yeah,
and lacrosse.
So it's a very fast-paced sport.
Right, I'm curious. That was a great question. I'm going to kind of piggyback off that. We talked about soccer and lacrosse and, them growing media attention here in the United States and in general.
Right.
But now with football and lacrosse, I think that the positions in soccer can be mirrored onto lacrosse when you have the attack, midfield, and defense and whatnot. Yeah. So now how do you translate and how are you able to, being the head coach at JV and starting off in defense and then going to head coach and now you're doing offensive line varsity.
Right.
Culminate on a lacrosse spectrum where completely different skillful talents and how do you find talent in specific areas? How do you know where to put somebody where?
Right, exactly. And I think that's why football is such a unique sport in that as a football coach, you're kind of specialized. Unless you're if you're a head coach, you kind of have your hand in everything you do.
Right.
But it was kind of a shock going over lacrosse, and it's like, you know, I knew enough about. I played goalie while I was in high school, so I knew about goalie and I knew about defense. And when I started my first job, it was like, look, you got to know more. You can't just know defense. You got to know offense. You got to know midfield. And I think it's the same in soccer because you don't see, you know, 15 soccer coaches on the sideline. It's like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely different. You have to look at all aspects of the game. Not that you don't know football, but I think with lacrosse, it's definitely more, you know, important to know every single aspect of the game, even if you're a position coach, because of how quickly, you know, defense can translate into offense just as quickly. You know, soccer is the same way. Fast break on offense might turn into defense, turns right back into a fast break the other way. So, and football can be like that too, you know, interceptions and all that. But there's always that break. Whereas lacrosse, your mind is going 100. I think that was a big culture shock for me too. Your mind is running 100 miles an hour all the time. Whereas football, it's more lackadaisical. You got time to think. So I think that was a big difference. And just going with what you said, it is hard to find the right kid for the right position. Be it, you know, is it a shifty kid that's an attackman? Can he score well? Or is it a fast, shifty kid that we want running up and down the field the whole time?
Right.
Is he that midfielder guy? You know, or is he good at defense? You know, you never know. It's just, you know, you go into football and there's a 6'3", 300-pound guy, and you're like, okay, you're playing offense. You can't do that because these kids will surprise you. Like for my JV team, I had a kid, you know, 4 foot nothing, and ran a, you know, 5'4", 40, but he could play some defense. He was a good defender. And then I have a kid that's, you know, 6'3", and he weighs, you know, about 170, 175, and you're thinking defense all the way. And he's a great attackman.
Right.
He moves really well and he scores really well. So it's definitely, you know, you can't stereotype as far as, you know, position goes as much at the lacrosse area. So
now I do have a question. Because since you guys were talking about football, I want to ask one last football question. You played at West Virginia.
Yes.
I played D1 AA at St. Francis. Do you feel that Stonebridge is ran to a certain extent where it almost feels like a college atmosphere? Because I had that feeling completely.
Right. I think it is and it isn't. I think, you know, at Stonebridge, the practices, and I think a lot, I say Stonebridge, but a lot of the schools in this area, be it Stonebridge, Briarwoods, Broad Run, it's just the football community. But I would, of course, I'm Stonebridge. I would obviously, especially Stonebridge. But I think it is run a lot like a college program. A lot's expected of you as a football player in Northern Virginia. The difference is, you know, some football programs, you know, West Virginia, I had a great experience. I had nothing wrong with them. I don't know about St. Francis. I can't speak for them. But as far as, you know, some of the stories I hear from these D1 programs, they kind of just, it's like putting you through, you know, the mill. It's like there's a bunch of kids and we're just trying to run you through and we're just trying to. So I think in the sense that, yes, we are, as, you know, we try to be as precise and demanding of our athletes as a college program. But I think, you know, at the high school level, we do a much better job of catering to the individual, you know, players. Then, not that the colleges don't do a great job with that, but I think with the scale that some of them are at, you just have too many kids. It's impossible to, you know, keep up with, you know, hundreds of kids, whereas I've got 90 that I've got to keep track of. So,
Brandon, you play football at St. Francis?
Yeah.
Bench? Waterboy. That's the first time, you know. Like I said, rap sheet in Stonebridge. You know, look out for it. The concussions. They give you the date, the time, everything.
Regardless. Anyways, if you want your kids to, you know, excel in sports, move out to Northern Virginia. Because we're on the come up.
Yeah,
Northern Virginia is on the come up.
I think it is.
But I mean, you know, so that was a great segue back into football. But let's go back to lacrosse and this tournament. USA Blue Division, we're in there. Next game, I think we should watch it. I mean, I told you I don't know anything about lacrosse, right? I don't know anything about.
You better
cricket,
learn then.
And I'm brown, right? My parents did not raise me well to know about cricket.
Hey man,
you know, I mean,
doesn't matter what you're
doing. I played it. Oh yeah, I dipped the tea. I screwed the light bulb in. I pet the dog. I do it all. But you know, I played it. I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I feel like I'm swinging like a baseball bat, but it's.
But yeah, I definitely think the upcoming games. If you haven't watched them, shame on me, shame on myself. I haven't got the chance to watch as much because football season is
Busy guy lately.
But I will be, keeping up with, especially seeing USA come out of the blue division with such rage that they did. I think it's definitely something to watch.
So tomorrow's game is gonna be at 4:30. I'm not entirely sure what channel, because I have no idea what channel they play lacrosse on.
Usually it's on ESPN3.
ESPN3.
Yeah.
Trace.
Yeah.
And then you
look
can
out
usually
for it.
catch it also on Watch ESPN,
Okay.
which is great. I use it all
Yeah,
the
I love
time
that.
on my
It's
iPad.
awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we are going real digital
Yeah.
nowadays, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Hopefully
Yeah.
one day on that digital platform you can see high school athletics. And as we mentioned before, tonight's program is brought to you by the Stonebridge Athletic Department here in Northern Virginia, the Ashburn area, mascot being the Bulldog, as we're all very familiar with. We're very happy to have them here at ACES as a sponsor of our program.
Right, Cover 3. We're trying to see Cover 3 on an iPad soon, right?
Hopefully,
That's what I'm waiting on.
Hopefully we get the iPad
Yeah.
app going. You can just click there, listen to our podcast.
So I can
Just see my face.
I don't
in the
have to
corner.
be here, and I can see your guys shining faces.
Yeah. And hopefully something we can get going there is the Ustream. If you guys are just listening to us and not watching us, you can catch us on Ustream. You can catch us on YouTube. You can find all those links on our Facebook page.
We're also on Twitter now.
We are on Twitter, guys.
@_ the cover 3.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
getting with the
finally.
digital age.
I'll send you guys a shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting hip, so.
One last thing I want to touch on here before we get into the division rankings as we've been doing the last few weeks is last night we had the MLB All-Star game.
Big deal.
As we can see, the Nationals jersey
Right.
here.
Oh,
Go
Captain, my
Nats.
captain.
Yeah. These were the highest ratings since 2010. That was awesome.
Which I mean, did you expect anything less?
Well,
Hold on.
I was going to say it was attributed to, this is Derek Jeter's last All-Star
Right,
game ever, which is crazy for me because I don't know about you guys. You guys remember when Cal Ripken was retiring?
Oh, absolutely.
And Jeter and Ripken swapped. And
I have to just be 100%. I am wearing my Nationals gear. I am a big, red
Yeah.
Nationals. Orioles are my first love, so I know
yeah.
exactly what you're talking about with Cal
when they
and
swapped
Oh,
and he had the
absolutely.
short. That seems like it was yesterday, and now we're
And
seeing
now he's
Jeter.
retiring.
It's really sad
amazing.
to see.
Me and
But-
Matt were talking about this last night. Jeter's like the last.
Oh yeah.
Right, staple in
Yeah,
baseball.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say other than
Right.
pitchers, it was like Ripken went, Chipper Jones went,
Right, yeah,
and now Jeter's gone, and there's nobody that throughout the league is
Right.
Just stand out, man.
other than pitchers.
It's like where do we go to now?
We
Like,
don't- right.
who's our guy?
Exactly.
I feel
Somebody
like
needs
it's
to
gonna
lead
turn
us.
And that's him right here.
Oh.
I
hope
don't
so,
know about
too.
that.
As much as I love my Nationals, I hate to say it, but I feel like Mike Trout.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's-
Mike
and
Trout.
I'm not going to take a single thing away from Mike.
Yeah.
He's an amazing athlete in
Woo.
general, not just
Yeah.
baseball. But Bryce Harper,
Yeah.
man, I mean,
he needs.
I mean, this season he's kind of had a slower come
right,
up.
and
injured
that's-
for a little while,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
he has been outshined a little bit by
Yeah.
Rendon this season.
Right.
Rendon's been
It
on
was
fire.
a great season.
But
for him.
I just hate to see baseball, which is our national pastime. I'm still going to say that, even though football is obviously more popular.
Right.
No, it's
But
definitely
I
national
hate
pastime.
to see that the ratings have been dwindling because it's a great sport.
Right.
I feel like a lot of the problem is people don't understand how much effort and skill goes into the
Right, exactly.
sport
It
of
goes
baseball.
into the sport of baseball.
Like if someone were to just stand up to bat and have a 90-mile-per-hour fastball come at them,
Right.
and then a
Right.
75-mile-per-hour changeup, and they try to, they would
exactly.
not be able to do anything
Exactly.
about it.
No.
Not to take anything away from any other sports, but it's just something about baseball that, when we all think of when we're kids, it's, going to a ballpark. It's, sitting, it's
But
the
that's the thing
American,
now. So I wanted to say that was going to an actual game. I'm all for it. I love it. You know, the drinks, the peanuts, the atmosphere, the whole entire the hot dogs. Like it feels very authentic to be at a baseball game, right? But now you're sitting there at home. You're not really gonna pay attention to it on TV. I mean,
That's
like
true.
it
It is
depends. The commentators are speaking RBIs. They're speaking all sorts of baseball lingo that not many people are really
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I asked Matt. That was me.
Yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm like, whip. I'm like, I get the ERA.
Right.
There's
I don't
a lot
know
of
how
stuff.
many years when I was a kid, I was like,
So these
Dad, what's
commentators,
whip? Are they hitting people up there? Are they
Yeah.
so these commentators are they're not really leveling with the general population. I think that's what's really kind of hurting baseball in a very broadcast formal way. Because if you go to an actual game, they're sold out. People are just getting real into the game, and you just see people that from all walks of the world that never even seen a baseball come and just want to watch the game because you know what, our friends are going to a baseball game. Tickets are a little bit cheaper, but it's a fun thing to do.
Right.
It's an event to go out.
Exactly, it's an event, and I think it provides with baseball games, it's great. You go out, you sit down. It's an event to go to. Football games, something's going on all the time.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, yeah.
action is happening
Yeah.
right now. I think with baseball games, there's a little bit of a lull. It's kind of a more of a, you know, an event to go and sit down and take your time and enjoy. Whereas, you know, the society that we're living in today, it's like
Yeah.
phone, now, text
Yeah.
message. You know, everything's got to come at them right now. And I
Yeah.
think it's a shame because it's such a great game that requires such
Yeah.
enormous skill, and it's starting to dwindle,
Yeah.
especially in the ratings. I go to games all the time.
And Nationals Park is a beautiful place
It's
to see a
beautiful.
game, and it's
Beautiful.
not.
It's the
super
only
hard to
place. It's the only stadium I've ever been to. I've been to PNC Park. I've been all over. I love sitting in the outfield. You know,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of people won't sit. You
Yeah.
know, they're like, I want third baseline. I want first.
Yeah.
But I will sit in the outfield anytime at National Stadium and watch a game.
It's a great.
But I mean, so let's take a step back on baseball. And yesterday was the All-Star game, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And yesterday was, or today is June 16th, right?
Yes.
Today we
Yes, it
have
is.
a famous baseball player passed away, but I haven't really heard much about him.
Tony. he
Tony-
passed away a
yeah.
few weeks ago,
But he-
the MLB did not have
Right. They
any-
snubbed.
Yeah,
That was
right.
Well, they
That was
did.
always
We were
happening.
watching the pre-show, and well, I don't know if you were paying attention, but in the pre-show they didn't mention him.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of odd that they didn't
But
have
he is
anything.
a Hall. I mean, when two people go in the Hall of Fame in one season, one of them being Cal Ripken and the other being Tony
Tony
Gwynn,
Gwynn.
and he passed
Right.
away, you show some sort of tribute to
Right.
that guy.
And I think
Regardless.
this shows the MLB was caught off guard. I think.
Yeah.
You know, they were so concerned with it's the captain's day. It's
Yeah.
time to send him off with a bang.
Yeah.
And I think they did that well enough. But I don't think it was a shot at anyone. I think it was obviously it was a mistake that
Yeah.
really should not have been made.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that it's such a mistake. You know, Tony Gwynn was a great athlete.
Yeah.
And was a great player for so many years. And I don't think MLB would openly go.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
right.
definitely not something they did on purpose. It was just an overload.
Right. An oversight.
Yeah.
But you can see how the general population might
Can
it could
view
be
it as,
skewed, right?
definitely.
It could be skewed.
Definitely.
So, I mean, they have some ground to make up, right?
Right.
They
Now it's
certainly do.
making up time.
I'm sure their PR is
Working hardcore.
inbox full
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure.
Hey, I want to call for a quick BG's corner.
Right before the AFC South.
Right before the
Okay.
AFC South, I
Okay.
got to call in a quick
Okay.
BG's corner.
Okay, fair enough. I might interrupt.
Is this your corner? Am
Yeah.
I in BG's corner?
You're
It's all right.
still
You're a
over
special
this
guest.
corner.
I can get
It's
out
all
of
right.
My corner has gotten very small.
Yeah.
I can't breathe in my
I'm a little
corner.
big.
Yeah.
It's a little
Yeah.
frustrating.
Got a little tusk to us here.
Gotta ask you, are you a Wizards fan?
Okay, so when I was younger, obviously I was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. Was a huge Ravens fan, Orioles fan. Moved to the Northern Virginia area, and it was like, you know, the Wizards. You know, we were just in, you know, the process of the whole Gilbert Arenas thing,
Mhm.
and it was like I kind of had lost, you know, a team to root for. I still go to Wizards games. I love rooting for them, but I was, and you know, I still am. Since Shaquille O'Neal was there with Dwayne Wade, I was a Heat fan, and then adding LeBron to it kind of just add the cherry on top.
Cherry on top.
Exactly.
Sprinkles.
You know, but yes, I am a Wizards fan, and I am very excited by the news over the weekend that Paul Pierce is
Yeah.
coming to DC.
And Chris
And Chris
Humphries.
And Chris Humphries.
Yeah,
So,
All right. Well, this is where we divvy into the BG's corner. I'm not impressed
oh, with the Wizards.
by Paul Pierce.
Oh, with Paul. Okay.
Come on.
I am impressed by every single thing else
Okay.
the Wizards have done, and I think it is a great platform to get the man.
Hold on.
But real quick.
Hey, don't
all
you
right.
know? Hold on in the
Listen,
BG's corner.
You're right.
All right.
You're right, you're
He's
right.
got special privileges though. Go ahead.
The
Ask your
guess
question.
okay. But if anything, are we not talking about the Wizards?
Oh,
Right.
they're the most prevalent
How
team
many
in the DC
times?
area right now.
How many times have we talked about them in years past, other than, you know, the
Last
John
year.
Wall, the Bradley Beal?
Yeah.
But now, what do we have looking forward to going into this offseason? There wasn't much. I mean,
Yeah.
there wasn't much as far as
People were pumped about Gortat.
exactly
signing.
Gortat.
Yeah.
But that's the crazy thing. It's like, okay, Gortat's a great player, but it's like, okay, did we really just go out and, you know, blow a chunk of money on Gortat when there's all the, you know,
All this talent that's coming.
LeBron had stated that he loves DC. You know,
Yeah.
all the players, they love coming to DC.
Where
Now,
did you hear that?
I never thought.
I thought LeBron
Yeah.
loved New York.
LeBron loves every city that has
Exactly.
a room,
Right.
like-
You know,
But,
who
I,
really loves New
but I
York?
think the overlying.
Melo loves New York.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
But I
He
think
loves money.
I think the overlying theme just of this whole thing is they got Paul Pierce, and now I'm sorry, I lost the name.
Chris
Humphries. I'm sorry. And now we're talking about it. Like
Right.
you have a spot on, you know, Cover 3 about the Wizards. You know,
Oh,
would we
yeah.
have had this spot if?
Probably
So
not.
so
They
I
also
see
picked
what
up
you're
Dewan
saying.
Blair.
I see what you exactly. So I see what you're saying. in years past, the Wizards have kind of been the butt of every joke, kind of like that's where careers go to die.
Yeah.
But I think Paul's got a lot left in the tank.
Well, they got
Chris
a young
Humphries is
team.
great. Right, exactly.
But the best part about them having a young team is our hometown boy, Kevin Durant.
I know.
Yeah.
Contract is up in 2016.
See, that's why I think the Paul Pierce signing is a good move, because that shows that we can actually acquire
Right,
talent.
that we're
that's-
willing to go.
See, I
next
think
level.
it's more of you're just trying to put a Band-Aid on losing Trevor
hold on.
Ariza. Hey, don't you hold on to BG's corner.
No,
Let me get this out. Nah.
Band-Aid.
Let me get this out.
All right,
You're putting the
Band-Aid.
Band-Aid on losing
Okay.
Trevor Ariza, but by just having we need somebody. We lost Trevor Ariza. Panic. Paul Pierce.
You're just a hater.
Okay.
Let me
Hold on,
finish.
hold on.
No, I'm not a hater.
Okay, well, I got next.
No, it's Imran's
I'm
corner.
going Imran's
Anyways,
arena next. all right?
regardless.
Have you ever put a Band-Aid on a paper cut?
I-
Not really, right?
Not really.
I don't think Trevor Ariza
Yeah.
leaving was a gouge.
Yeah.
But it was okay. But you pick up Paul Pierce,
I'm a Band-Aid
who's
in your mouth.
who's an aging player, clearly not the same player he was
No.
when he was with the
They're
Celtics
not gonna
just
ask
2
him to
years ago.
play as many minutes as
No,
him,
of
ask
course
him
not.
involved.
But he's not gonna. It's not covering for what you lost in Trevor Ariza.
You have a young
But-
team, right?
But
I'm listening. Listening.
everything else they have picked up in this free agency, I'm very excited for. I'm happy to see them making moves, and I'm happy to see them come to national attention. You all want to crucify me
I don't.
for saying I don't like the
I
Paul
don't.
Pierce move, but you don't want to hear me out, and you're gonna cut off. BG's corner is over. Let's go to the
Okay, hold
NFC
on, hold
South.
on. Before we
Ain't
go to
nobody
NFC
care what
South.
you gotta say, boy.
Before
I want to
NFC
hear it.
South.
I want to hear it.
You're talking about Paul Pierce. You're just a hater. That's all I'm saying. You do not like.
Yeah, you know what? Because you know why I cannot stand Paul Pierce? Why did he have to get carried out? Why did he have to get carried out?
Okay. Anyway,
See, something
I'm just
happened.
saying,
I have
Paul has
on a
messed you up
wheelchair.
on a
He has-
personal
Because
level.
he plays for the Celtics.
Yeah,
Look,
that's
Well,
why.
I have my
Paul-
problems
Knicks
with
fans,
Paul,
be
too.
quiet for a minute.
But Paul Pierce has been a dominant player in the league for a long time coming. He's always consistent.
For a long time, and it's been past a long time.
So we
he hasn't
have-
been. Paul Pierce hasn't been
No,
dominating
we had
since
your
like.
corner.
Okay, Stephen A.
we
Okay,
had your
Stephen
corner,
A.
brother. We had your corner.
LeBron
We had your
James,
corner.
my dear friend.
We had your corner, bro. Just pipe down a little bit. I might have to band-aid that mouth shut. Let me just get this point out. We need an older gentleman who's been in the league that has played in championship caliber
What do you
teams.
mean we?
The Wizards.
I thought you were a Cavs fan.
No, LeBron fan. And a Cavs fan now because he went to the Cavaliers, but I'm a die-hard Wizards fan, all right?
Okay.
And I'm telling you, we as the Wizards, as being a young team, need
How-
Paul Pierce
how,
or need
uh,
an older gentleman.
How quickly are you trying to die for
And
the
I think-
Wizards?
So
Real
we're
quick.
talking about we're talking about making up for Trevor Ariza. Did we all forget about Otto Porter?
Oh,
Who,
But
by the way,
where was Otto
let me-
Porter last season?
Have you looked at the NBA
Summer League, yeah. Otto
Yeah,
Porter's been
He has
showing up.
been
He's been-
showing
yeah,
up pretty
he's been showing up.
and it's quite encouraging.
Yeah,
I'm not
it
gonna
is.
lie.
That
So
is.
if you're gonna take Trevor Ariza away from us, and I applaud the Wizards for finally making a good decision in holding off on Otto Porter
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year, and I think now we're finally gonna see that Georgetown force
I
think
hope
so.
show up
I
to
think
some
so.
games this year.
And Brandon, the one question I want to pose is, if we had to give out one long-term deal to someone, would you have rather had that gone to Gortat or Ariza?
My man Marcin.
Yeah, okay.
It's gotta be
But
Gortat.
the thing is though, it wasn't a situation of we can only give a deal to one or the other.
That-
It was a situation of Trevor Ariza was like, I'm out.
But once again, in the back of your mind, who comes up in free agency?
AD,
Yeah.
2 summers from
Oh, and you know what?
You get
I'm
that
rooting
long
for
term
that.
deal. You get
I'm a
that,
huge KD
right.
fan.
But
Yeah.
you
But we
could
got-
be
we
if you're
still
going to
have-
give the long term deal to Ariza
Right.
and Gortat.
Yeah.
Hold on,
That's a lot of money.
Isn't 2 years going to be the re-signing of a new
That is
broadcast
true. There's
deal?
gonna be a
So
new-
we're gonna be-
new
yeah,
salary
That's
cap.
why
cap.
LeBron
Yeah.
is
So
More
that's
money.
why
Deal.
Marcin Gortat got the deal that he got, and that's why we're able to give $13 million to Chris Humphries and
Right.
whatever we gave
Yeah.
to Paul Pierce. Because in 2
Well,
years,
also you got money back for doing the sign and trade.
Right,
for Ariza.
Ariza.
But why are you an Ariza fan? Was it because he's came from the Lakers?
He was a-
No, it's not. It's not.
Why are
It's
you
not.
such a big Ariza advocate? He didn't
Because
do
he did-
much this past playoffs. In the last playoff games against the Miami Heat,
He had his.
You were watching that with Heat goggles on.
you did.
You seen the Heat glasses
Right.
that Rihanna be wearing?
LeBron.
That's what you were watching,
No.
and you weren't seeing anything
no,
else.
no,
that was-
the Heat
They're not
hat.
Heat hats.
The
The
Heat
Heat
hat.
draft.
Right.
I
And he had.
had the LeBron glasses on.
Yeah,
Well,
well, it was fogging up your
I
vision.
think
It really was.
Because you missed a lot.
And Ariza wasn't clearing no fog up, right? So
just kind of evaluating as a whole, I think it's good for Washington sports in general that they've gone and got this talent. And it's not like past years where it's like, okay, we're going to get our draft picks, we'll pick up somebody here and there, but we're just, we're kind of just flying on the radar. We finally have a playoff team. It's time to, let's make our push. Even if it's if KD decides, if you're watching this, if you happen to look at this on YouTube, come on back to DC. We want you here.
Yeah, we want you
your
here.
daddy wants you here. I want you here.
But,
we all want you.
But I think they're making the right moves as an organization right now to kind of make themselves relevant again, which is great after the Gilbert Arenas, all that happened.
I know.
So,
I mean, good things are in the future for
That was
Washington.
a bruise
Exactly.
for Washington sports for a while.
Trevor Ariza had 8.9
I think
rebounds.
In
the playoffs.
Ariza.
Led the
Basically,
team. I just want to let you
Brandon,
know.
all we
Just
gotta
want to let
know
you know.
is that the Wizards
Don't disrespect
are
them.
adding these pieces to do what? They're making a sprint for the East. Speaking of sprint, guys,
which is now wide open.
today's program is not only brought to you by the Stonebridge Athletic Department, but Sprint. Right now, you can get the Samsung Galaxy Tab 3 for $49.99.
I have Sprint.
You do?
Yeah, I
the
do.
service is great.
No, I've never had it. I've been with them
Yeah.
for 8 years.
Yeah, it's an amazing service. You can even, your products that you want from them, you can buy them online, pick them up at your local store. Great service they got going there. We're happy to have Sprint as a sponsor.
Have you switched yet, Brandon?
Nah,
I mean,
I
we're
told you I'm
checking
a
up-
lame.
We're gonna
Yeah.
check up every
This
show.
fancy-
I'm a Trevor Ariza fan, apparently.
This
I'm a
fancy
lame.
phone over here, and you can't call nobody because you don't have Sprint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
It's
Guys.
great. It doesn't even call anybody. It's just for show.
I love sitting here talking all these sports to Kyle, and I might have to pull an audible here because we're have some great topics coming up. We might have to push the AFC South to the next day. We only got about 15 minutes coming up here. I wanted to pick Kyle's brain about the fact that he said that he grew up an Orioles fan and is now somewhat a Nationals
I
fan.
love hearing this.
I had
It's a good
the exact same fan lineage growing up. I was a
Right.
huge, would go to Camden Yards
Oh,
every
yeah.
summer.
Yep.
Great time. Somewhat of an argument going on is when this Battle of the Beltway goes on is that the Orioles fans have somewhat of a hatred for Nationals fans, but we don't
Okay.
feel that
No,
same thing.
I-
towards
Level of
Orioles
disdain.
fans.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be completely honest with you. So when the Battle of Beltway goes on, I always pick one home Nationals game to go to. And I do wear my Adam Jones jersey and
Yeah.
sit in center field and talk to Adam Jones the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's – I have no hatred towards Nationals fans. I can't. I don't hate myself.
Yeah.
But I can understand that.
Yeah.
Nationals were not a team for a long time. And I think there were a lot of Orioles fans – that stuck with the Orioles, but I think there were a lot of Nationals fans that did not transfer over to Orioles fans. And now they kind of feel like, hey, this is our team. Like,
Yeah.
don't come over into our area
Exactly.
because you have your team, we have our team. And I can understand that viewpoint. A lot of people have that viewpoint, the Ravens with, the Colts moving out to Indianapolis and the way that all went down. I know a lot of people that, will never be Ravens fans because they were Colts fans and they're still Colts
Yeah.
fans no matter what they did. But I think as far as, the Nationals, I've never gotten any flack or interference from anyone at the games. I mean, even if it is, it's all fun and games. But
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like that argument you have with your friend. You're like, there's not really an issue there. It's
Yeah.
just kind of, everyone wants to make it an issue. So I think I speak for the in-betweeners, the Orioles fans, Nationals, that I love the Nationals and I love the Orioles when they play. I'm an Orioles fan through and
Yeah.
through, but I root for both throughout the season.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from growing up in Baltimore and then moving out to the DC area. It's kind of hard to get away from DC sports. You Redskins fans make it hard.
Yeah, we certainly do.
Yeah, you really do.
Hey, I have a passion, and then the Washington Redskins, I can't help it.
My passion is hating the Washington Redskins. so.
The battle of the belt, even though every other fan you like is from the Washington area.
That's all right,
But you
though.
happen to like the Dallas Cowboys.
Uh-huh. I'll tell you my childhood.
Yeah,
What's going on?
was there something
Yeah,
that
like, what?
led you to do that?
Can we have?
Was there like an
Can
issue?
we have Aziza's
or-
Arena?
No, we can't have you.
No,
have
then
it.
I can't tell you.
You know what?
I'm still
I don't
stuck on
care
the battle
about-
of the Beltway.
I don't care.
The fact that it is
I
now
got the
this
last 2
season,
minutes. I'll tell you why I like the Cowboys.
I believe this is the first season, the Battle of the Beltway. It used to be a 3-game series in
Right,
Baltimore,
right.
a 3-game
Right.
series.
And now they moved it to the 4.
Yeah,
the
4,
2
2 and 2.
Yeah.
I wish it was still 3
Right,
and 3.
and I think we as baseball fans, we're greedy. We want
Yeah.
to see our teams play. And I was upset. I only made it to one of the Battle of the Beltway this year. I usually try to go to one in Camden, one at National
Yeah.
Stadium. And I think you're right. I think the 6-game series was great, but I think as far as the Nationals, we're fighting with the Braves constantly. In the division.
Top of the division.
And it's Orioles, and we're always fighting the Yankees.
Yeah.
So it's like, do we really want to waste that? It's not a waste, but it's that extra game, against someone who may not count as much.
Exactly.
We could be playing the Rays, or the Nats could be, having it out with the Braves for, it seems like we could never ever win a series against them. We got to split it or win one. But I think as baseball fans, we would love to see that Battle of the Beltway, go back to the 6. I think as, team fans, as a Nationals fan, I'm okay with it because now we get that extra division game. As an Orioles fan, I'm okay with it because we get to see the Yankees one more time, or the Rays, or whoever it might be.
How do you feel about the Orioles being more represented than the Nationals last night? I believe they had Adam Jones and Nelson Cruz.
Adam Jones and Nelson Cruz.
And we only had Tyler
Right.
Clippard.
Exactly.
Do you think that was the right choice of pitching to represent our staff?
Clippard's a great pitcher, and Steven Strasburg, I love him. He's just not having the year that everyone's expected him to have. But I think Clippard was the correct choice. Clippard's a great pitcher, and I love him. But I think if anyone's going to complain, about us not having I think it's us as fans that take the blame. We pick it. I mean, for God's sakes, how many times, I think it was like a week straight where you could hashtag, vote Nats on Twitter, and it was that was your vote.
Yeah.
Like they can't make it much easier for us. You got to go in and do it yourself. So I think it is disappointing that we just had one in the game, but I think it falls on us as fans. Go out there, support your team. You can't just sit around and play the fan part. You got to do your part.
Yeah, I'm from the camp that I think Jordan Zimmerman might have been that guy.
Yeah, I think. Right. And I think you can make an argument for Zimmerman. There's a lot of guys. We see everything through Nationals goggles.
Exactly.
You can make an argument for a lot of guys.
Yeah.
You can make an argument for a lot of Orioles play, but then you look around at the
big picture.
Yeah,
and then you realize just
Mike Tulowitzki from Colorado. He's sick. He's probably one of the best shortstops in the game. And how about coming from? We had already touched on the Baltimore Ravens in a previous show, but having a Ravens fan in-house.
Yep.
How do you feel about what they've been doing in the offseason? This is now their second season removed from winning it all.
And I think, touch on the Wizards for a minute just before we get back to the reason. But I think, the Washington's problem was they could not stay relevant. They couldn't get people that were going to bring attention. And I think the Ravens finally, we've had pickups in the past, the Anquan Boldens, those type of players, but going out and getting Steve Smith from the Carolina Panthers, I can't express how excited I am.
That's a big
just
move
to see him. We have Jacoby Jones, who's a great athlete. Torrey Smith, another great threat.
Yeah.
Steve Smith, and it's like, wow, we've got 3 really good receivers. We've got a great running back. We've got a good offensive line. We've got a quarterback. Why can't we go out and win another one?
Tight ends as well. Owen
Daniels. Owen Daniels now is on the team.
Pitta.
Dennis Pitta. Great. And then our defense, we've been trying to bulk up. Matt Elam's apparently been looking great in camp. Defensive line's always
I love
solid.
Matt Elam.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Matt Elam.
If there's one area of weakness you'd have to point to on the Ravens that you wish they would have maybe been a little bit more proactive in, or maybe in the draft,
Right.
What area do you think?
And you're gonna kill me because I'm seeing through Ravens goggles. I think we did exactly what we needed to do.
Okay.
I think we went out. We needed a receiver. We got a receiver. We needed defense. We went out and picked up pieces in the draft that they may not be ready now, but I think 2 or 3 years down the line they're there.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago when we drafted Torrey Smith, it was like, who's Torrey Smith?
Yeah.
Like, who is this kid?
Right.
And now,
Maryland kid.
exactly, some kid from Maryland. And now Joe Flacco's throwing 80-yard bombs.
Yeah.
So I think that speaks to the Ravens organization as a whole of being able to draft talent, go and get talent that are A, going to be here long term, and B, that are going to be productive. And I think that's huge, as far as, coaching has a lot to do with it. The Harbaugh brothers are obviously a couple of the best coaches in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're the new Ryans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that at this point, I'm happy with where we are. Last year, I wasn't as happy. We made some moves that I was okay with, but I did not see us as a playoff team.
Yeah.
This year, if you ask me now, I see us as a playoff team and possibly a contender. you got the Denver Broncos you got to compete with,
Yeah.
and you know.
And you got to get out of that division first. The Bengals
Right,
are on
right.
the up and up. every
Exactly,
season.
exactly,
Yeah.
and that's I think the Bengals' problem number one is the playoff hump because
And you can never forget Cleveland. Those division games.
right,
For
and
some reason,
you know,
it's-
I know
you
you've
see
probably
it
talked
happen.
about it 100 times, but having number 2 for the Browns,
Yeah.
if he ends up
Yeah.
playing any length of time, I don't care who you are, and you can shake your head all you want, but if you have that kind of playmaker on the field,
Yeah.
he will find ways.
He will. I mean,
But-
They said the same thing about Tebow.
And he found
But
ways
he
to
did,
win.
though.
Yeah.
And where is he now?
but that's
That's
all right.
not his fault.
How
Yeah.
many
We're
how many
talking
years has it
about-
been?
It's not his fault.
Yo, you
Yeah,
can tone
I-
it down over here, okay? You're getting too loud and it's hurting my ears. All I'm saying is, in that
Get some
division,
earplugs.
in that division,
Steven.
Cleveland is known to not be somebody that's just pushed around.
Right.
They have actually beaten the number one seed in that division
Right.
at timeless times.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So like they can go on a
And
streak and
that's-
still not make it to playoffs.
And that shows you, I think, some of the strongest divisions in the National Football League, or the divisions where I don't care who it is, whatever you're playing, the NFC East, whether it's whoever's playing from top to bottom, there's a chance for someone to win that game. When the Browns play the Ravens or when
Yeah.
the Browns play the Steelers, it doesn't matter. Like it's a coin toss.
Yeah, what I like to see is that they're some of the lowest scoring games in the league, and that's
Right.
not a detriment to them. That's
Right,
great
that's
defense on
great-
both
right,
sides of
exactly.
the ball, and it's always fun to watch. I like what the Ravens are doing. One question I have about Joe Flacco is he got huge flack when they signed that contract,
Right,
but
yeah,
since
right.
then we've seen a handful of quarterbacks sign
Even bigger,
bigger,
right.
crazier
Yeah.
And
contracts.
I think that's, once again, the way we were going. I mean, if you remember when the rookies started signing, it was like enormous rookie contract, and then all of a sudden you have the rookie agreement where
Yeah.
they cut it
the
off.
cap.
The
I think
CBA.
we are slowly moving towards a cap on salaries. 'Cause
Yeah.
I will grant it. Joe Flacco did get a great deal of money. Do I think he was worth it? Absolutely. I think you can ache me all you want, but he's got a Super Bowl. Does he not?
Yeah.
I mean,
Touche.
Hey, he has the same amount of rings as Drew Brees, if you want to
He
believe like
does.
yeah, but I mean, if we're talking quarterbacks in this room about Super
I
Bowls,
mean,
you talk
yeah.
about Eli Manning.
Right.
I'll give
Who,
Flacco the money over Romo.
How many picks did he throw last year?
That's all right. Still got two.
I had him in my
You're gonna
fantasy
need
league.
your-
It was
Still got
your
two.
hands and feet to count how many interceptions.
More than Romo out there.
And I think completely. I think you're right. It was a good amount of money, but I think as a Super Bowl MVP, with what we're working with, I think it was a good move.
Yeah.
We're years removed from it now, and people are signing bigger contracts.
Yeah.
Kaepernick taking the hit for him,
Yeah.
which was a big deal. All these guys coming up that are due for contracts. I think we're just going to see a steady rise until the NFL does something about it.
Yeah. Because I'm waiting until Cam signs a contract. I think Cam needs to get his money, but he's probably realistically going to get as much, maybe even more than Joe Flacco got.
Right, exactly.
And he hasn't even won.
And
championship.
here's
Right.
and Panthers fans across the nation that listen to this are going to hate me, but I don't think Cam Newton's worth the money. I just don't. I think he's a great playmaker.
You think Kaepernick was?
No, I don't think Kaepernick was worth the money.
Fair
I
enough.
think Kaepernick's a great player.
But
Again,
Romo was.
Yeah.
Nah, he
Did
was.
half of that go to his back surgery?
No, 3/4.
Yeah.
But I
That and
think
cutting off his golf lessons.
you take all of these huge contracts with a grain of salt because now you realize, everyone else is getting more money. There's
Right.
just that recent dispute, Jimmy Graham had with the NFL.
Yeah.
It has to be classified as a tight end or receiver.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking to get theirs.
Definitely.
This is a team effort, and we're trying to win Super Bowls. But at the end of the day, it's about making your money,
Yeah.
and that's what these guys are trying to
It's
do.
the most highlighted position of any sport in the entire world, I'd
Right,
say.
exactly.
You're the quarterback in an NFL franchise. There's no bigger position in sports than that
Exactly.
right there. And it's going towards where they get paid the most money
Right.
out of anybody.
Right.
Closing things out here in a minute. Emron, what did you want to say in your arena, as you call it?
Wow. So I have two.
Can we
stories
just call
to
it
share with you.
Imran's Playhouse?
No.
It's gotta be
It's gonna be
alliteration. It has
Aziz's
to be alliteration.
Arena.
Yeah, I know. That's what we should
Aziz's
change it.
Arena.
Imran's
Aziz's
Imran's
Arena.
influence.
Okay.
Oh.
Hey, we might have minted
Yeah.
a new segment here. On
I'm
Company.
gonna
I think everybody's under the
influence-
influence, and I'm not liking it. I'm not liking it.
I'm gonna influence your corner to just quiet down for a little bit as I get the limelight for this 1 second. I'm gonna share two childhood stories, and they relate to this segment here. They relate to the Baltimore.
Is it rude if I walk away?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to walk away.
You had your corner. Let them in.
It's actually, you know what? It's polite of you to walk away. 'Cause, I really don't want you next to me. But anyway, so two stories. To make it quick, Baltimore Orioles. Parents immigrated to this country, didn't know a lick of baseball, but it was close to cricket. So what they do, they went and bought me a Cal Ripken jersey when I was young and a Baltimore Orioles bumper sticker. I didn't know a lick of what the hell I was wearing or what was on this bumper sticker, but I thought it was cool because I love the Orioles logo. And then, as time progressed,
Whoa, not to cut you off. You're talking about their like 90s, early 2000s, like the bird.
Yeah, the
cartoon
bird.
bird.
The bird.
Not the
head.
Not the cartoon, but the actual.
the
actual
bird. The
Oriole.
silhouette.
That's what you're
That's
talking
the
about. You're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just had to clarify. Okay.
Right? And so that moved on, that progressed. I finally found out what baseball was, kind of got like more in tune with actually going to the games versus watching on TV, because even to this day, I'm super very ADD, so baseball's a little slower game for me. And I go to the games, I love it. So now I'm a Nationals fan, but as Kyle said here, that he kind of plays both sides, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I like watching Nationals, and that's why I like the Battle of the Beltway, because
Yeah.
it's not like the Redskins, Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
It's not a heated debate.
Yeah.
It's more
Every
like,
preseason
let's
you
get
see it
together,
gradually.
let's have a cookout, let's get this thing going.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And then aside from that, why am I a Cowboys fan? I'm gonna make this a quick spark.
Very, very
flip
quick,
note.
Emron.
Like I said, parents from the greatest country didn't know what football was either. And the only time we ever watched a football game was the Thanksgiving Bowl. And for the longest time, it was Redskins against Dallas.
Okay.
And that's the only game that I would watch. And I can remember all the way back to when I was 4 years old. I'm sitting there I'm like, what am I watching? And the only way I could relate to the team that I wanted to pick to win was my favorite color.
Right.
And to this day, it's blue.
Well,
And so I stick
hate
true to the
put
blue.
a chink in your metal. Your armor.
But Detroit Lions
But the
are
Detroit
blue.
Lions
Yeah.
are blue, and they play
But
at
he
the
ain't giving
Thanksgiving.
also.
Hold on.
So you could have been a Lions fan.
I could have, but we only watched one
Just bad.
game that was related
Okay.
to our city.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
guys. Tune in next week for more of Emron defending his fandom. Kyle.
Yeah, that's gonna be another new segment.
It was awesome to have Kyle here. We hope to have him on again. If you're in the Northern Virginia area, come catch him at Stonebridge games all fall and spring long. He's a great guy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
No problem. Thanks
Yeah, when
for-
you getting on again?
Whenever you guys want to
Yeah,
have me.
whenever we want him on.
All right, you know what? Just stop coaching.
I'm always up.
Yeah.
Stop coaching.
No, I can't do that. But I'd love to stop by anytime you want to have my input. I'd love that.
I think
I'd love to offer it.
we're gonna do this at a practice one day.
Yeah, come
We're just gonna come to a practice,
Come
bring
on,
a camera,
All
get
right,
it going.
well, you know
All
what?
Guys,
Thank you
as
again,
always,
everybody.
next Monday, catch us, Cover 3 Podcast, brought to you by Aces.